The silence after the last argument echoed in the halls of the once warm and lively home. The walls had absorbed years of laughter, love, and memories, but now they only seemed to reflect the tension. In the center of it all were the children, Amy, only 10, and her older brother, Jake, 14, caught in the crossfire of their parents' crumbling marriage. Their mother, Claire, tried her best to shield them from the harsh words exchanged between her and their father, Mark. But no matter how hard she tried, the hurt seeped into every aspect of their lives. Amy could sense the shift in her mother's smile, the way it didn't quite reach her eyes anymore, while Jake retreated into his room, escaping into video games and headphones to drown out the noise. One night, after another argument ended with a slammed door, Claire sat the children down. The words tumbled out, carefully chosen but still sharp. Your father and we've decided it's best to live separately, but we love you both very much. That will never change. For Amy, the words didn't fully make sense. She couldn't understand how her family could still be together if her father wouldn't be living with them anymore. Jake, however, had already seen it coming. He'd heard the whispered conversations, the late-night phone calls, the tear-streaked face of his mother when she thought no one was looking, but knowing didn't make it hurt any less. The separation happened quickly. Mark moved into a small apartment across town, and Claire stayed in the family home. Amy clung to her mother, not wanting to leave her side, while Jake became distant, frustrated by the lack of control he had over the situation. Living between two homes felt unnatural. Weekdays with their mother meant routines, homework, and the faint hope that things might still go back to the way they were. Weekends with their father felt like an escape, but also a reminder of everything they had lost. Mark tried to fill the void with fun outings and new experiences, but the children could sense the emptiness behind his forced enthusiasm. For Amy, it was the small things she missed most. Her father's voice in the mornings, their shared breakfasts, and the way he'd tuck her in at night. Now she only got those moments on the weekends, and they never felt quite the same. Jake, on the other hand, struggled with anger. He was angry at his father for leaving, at his mother for not holding things together, and at himself for not knowing how to fix anything. The divide between the children and their parents grew. Claire, overwhelmed by her own grief and trying to hold things together, didn't notice how isolated Jake had become, how lost Amy felt. Mark, dealing with his own guilt, avoided the hard conversations, hoping that time would heal the wounds he had no idea how to mend. Months passed, and the new routine became the only routine. But the underlying sadness never left. Amy, still young, tried to remain optimistic. She created a fantasy where her parents would get back together, where things would be normal again. She'd often tell Jake her dreams of a family vacation where they'd all laugh and be happy like they used to be. Jake, however, knew better. His dreams had turned into nightmares of arguments and doors closing forever. One evening, Jake returned from his father's apartment earlier than expected. He had gotten into another fight with Mark about school, about rules, about everything that felt wrong in his world. His father didn't understand him anymore, and Jake didn't know how to explain the knot of anger and sadness tightening inside him. Claire tried to talk to him, but Jake pushed her away too, not knowing how to voice the deep sense of abandonment he felt. He locked himself in his room, the tears coming only when he was sure no one would hear. Amy, who saw her brother suffering in silence, didn't know how to help him. She felt stuck between her own confusion and her brother's pain, both of them lost in their new, fractured world. The breaking point came one evening when Claire found a note in Jake's room. It wasn't a goodbye note, but it was full of thoughts that a mother should never read. Jake's words expressed his feelings of hopelessness, of being torn between two worlds that didn't feel like home anymore. He wrote about the burden of trying to be strong for his little sister when he felt so weak himself. Claire's heart shattered. She had been so caught up in her own grief over the divorce that she hadn't seen how deeply her children were suffering. That night she called Mark, and for the first time since the separation, they spoke openly, not about their failed marriage, but about their children and the damage that had been done. They decided to come together, if only for a moment, for the sake of Amy and Jake. They arranged family counseling, acknowledging the pain they had caused and the responsibility they had to help their children heal. It was a long, painful road ahead. The scars of the divorce would never fully disappear, but the family started to rebuild piece by piece. Amy stopped waiting for her parents to get back together and instead learned to love them separately. Jake began to open up about his feelings in therapy, slowly untangling the emotions that had consumed him. Though the family was still broken, they were no longer ignoring the pain. They faced it together, even if from separate homes, and began to find new ways to connect. The laughter didn't come as easily as before, but it came, softly at first, like a distant echo of the love they once shared. In the end, the family was never the same, but they were stronger in their acceptance of what had happened. Jake and Amy, once lost in their pain, learned that healing doesn't mean forgetting, it means moving forward, even if the path is uncertain. The Broken Family is a raw and emotional tale of how a divorce or conflict can fracture the very foundation of a family, leaving the children to grapple with feelings of abandonment, confusion, and grief. It captures the slow, painful process of healing as the family members try to find a new way to love each other through the wreckage of what was once whole.